I have made an entire Mario game obsolete. Well, kinda. Mario games and video games in general are made with passion, carefully made to capture an emotion or experience. Every game is one of a kind, and even if a game is old, if the premise is good, it will last forever. The Mario series is an amazing series, each one feeling different, each one offering new experiences. But it turns out Mario Maker for 3DS is very replaceable. I'm relatively sure that most people have some sort of dormant memory about Mario Maker for 3DS's existence, and yeah, I don't blame you. By all accounts, it was an inferior version. You couldn't upload levels, you couldn't search for levels, and it looked worse. I mean, it could have worked, maybe as a way to connect to the Wii U game and download levels directly to the 3DS or something, but it was the forgotten middle child of the Mario Maker series. However, it did have one thing that made it interesting, the Super Mario Challenge. 100 Nintendo-made levels for specifically the 3DS version. That's more levels than any new Super Mario Bros. Game. While it received middling reviews, the critics did mention that the 100 built-in levels basically made it a standard Mario game. I will also add the concepts on display are well done and really flexes the team's creativity, with those levels being the 3DS version's only claim to fame. Logically, if one were to remake all those levels in a more popular and easily accessible game, the game would end up being outdated and there would be no reason to buy or play it. So, I remade every Nintendo published level in Super Mario Maker for the Nintendo 3DS in Super Mario Maker 2. You'd think a process like that would be simple, right? Slap together some podcasts and video essays about turtles or whatever to pass the time, and remake levels late into the night, right? Well, no, it's not that simple. You see, it's quite a process. In order to actually see the levels through the level editor, you need to complete the challenges associated with them. Every level has two challenges, an easy one and a hard one. When you first start out, the easy challenge is presented first, and then when you complete the easy challenge, the hard challenge is revealed. The reward for beating both challenges is being able to edit the level. I assume the system was used so that inspiring level designers could learn from the experts. They would see how level designers actually made levels, letting you tinker around in these mini playgrounds. I admit, as a reward it makes sense. It is Mario Maker, making is part of the title. It's a place to learn how to make levels. However, remaking every 3DS Mario Maker level in Super Mario Maker 2 wasn't even why I completed the challenges in the first place. I just did it because I like Mario and wanted to challenge myself. Also, I'm a completionist and did it for the fun of it. Fast forward a year or so and I get my hands on Super Mario Maker 2. An idea pops into my head. My Mario Maker account isn't doing much of anything, so why not dedicate my account to host all the 3DS Mario Maker levels? The 3DS version of Mario Maker isn't that popular, only selling 2.3 million copies, half the number of the Wii U version. And so, doing this as my contribution to the Mario Maker community, I got to work. Originally, I wanted to make them in the New Super Mario Bros. U style, since I really like New Super Mario Bros., but eventually I made them all stick to their original game style. Arguably, I should have went with that first, but whatever. Over the course of the year, I remade them all in the end. However, they aren't completely one-to-one, though that was inevitable. The rules of Mario Maker 1 and 2 are different, and some things just won't translate as gracefully, but I did add some things to make the game play slightly better. We'll tackle these individually. First, the differences between Super Mario Maker 1 and 2. First and most tragic, the Weird Mushroom. There are a few levels that use the Weird Mushroom, and since those don't exist in Super Mario Maker 2, I replaced it with something else. Usually it was a Super Mushroom or an SMB2 mushroom. I chose SMB2 because it was a close enough replacement, mainly due to the vertical height gained with a crouch jump. Since Weird Mario can jump high and SMB2 usually didn't break too much of the level, I used it as our Weird Mushroom replacement. Another thing I noticed was there were specific sound effects that were in Mario Maker 1 that weren't in its sequel. One glaring omission that messed with me was the absence of the bird sound effect. It was a very niche sound effect, but I still liked it. It had an air of class and serenity to it. Whatever. I replaced it with Scatting since it had the most elegance of all the sound effects. Basically, it had the closest vibe to the bird. Oh boy, time for the heavy hitters. Now you can't put bouncy platforms on a rail that's placed on the bottom row of a level. I know, it's a beloved feature. Everyone said in the reviews, man oh man, this game would be a 0 out of 10 if you weren't able to put bouncy platforms on bottom row rails. But sadly, Super Mario Maker 2 is a 0 out of 10 game now. In order to live on with the sin of humanity, I moved the rails up by 1 block. Okay, serious talk. This next one is actually a heavy hitter. And honestly, I saved it for last because it does change a bit. You can't put anything in this little starting box here. I'm assuming it's because there were people setting up a bunch of traps in that area and people complained it was unfair. Nintendo must have realized that and made this area untouchable in the level editor. It affected levels the most because you couldn't put power-ups or trampolines or fully enclose the area. It's different enough for it to stick in my head for the past year. And the last major difference, you may have seen it in the footage, yes, I added slopes. Being from Super Mario Maker 1, the game and the levels didn't have slopes. Honestly, seeing no slopes makes the conversion part weird because I know if Nintendo made these levels for Super Mario Maker 2, they would have absolutely added slopes. Slopes separate the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the chaff. Third vaguely biblical reference. What I'm saying is, slopes make your level look clean. It's like the iron shirt of Mario Maker levels, and since these are Nintendo-made levels, I wanted to present them in the best light, so I added slopes where I deemed necessary. I just thought it would look nicer and play nicer, and I figured Nintendo would have done that anyway. But those are all minor differences. Anyone who doesn't know too much about 3DS Super Mario Maker wouldn't even notice or care. The real question is whether these levels are fun and play like the originals. And that answer is a totally unbiased yes! If you love modern Mario level design, you'll like all these levels. The best thing about these levels is that you can tell they were made within the bounds of Mario Maker 1 constraints. Nintendo made all these within the actual editor, and can easily be made by you. Mario Maker 2 levels don't. Granted, most of those things you can't use are story-based clear conditions and a literal cube, things I'm relatively sure literally everyone would use, just like the Underwater Night theme or Big Mushroom. But still, I can't make a level with the glorified paperweight, literal 0 out of 10 game. But back to the point, staying within the bounds of the level editor implicitly says you can make good levels like these too. Mario Maker 2 has specific gimmicks that no one else can build upon because I don't work at Nintendo. It feels unfair to use something the player can't use, because even with limited course parts, every level feels distinct and fleshes out a specific concept to its conclusions. You don't have to quote-unquote cheat and create concepts out of thin air to meet a level quota. Now, I'm not saying that 3DS Mario Maker is the paragon of Mario greatness or anything like that. These are all just good Mario levels. And while they aren't lost media, most people can agree that the 3DS version is the worst version of Super Mario Maker. With no way to upload the levels, the search system being cut, and having a worse resolution to boot, the only redeeming factors were the built-in levels and the challenges that came with them. Oh wait, I forgot to mention the challenges! There's a reason these built-in levels are called the Super Mario Challenge. Every level has 2 challenges, as I mentioned. What I hadn't mentioned is how I implemented them. Now, clear conditions are a thing. Honestly, clear conditions are so garbage, mainly because they are mandatory to beat the level. Maybe it's a me thing, but clear conditions don't add a whole lot to the game. Having a mandatory challenge kind of worsens the level if not implemented well, and 85% of the time, it's not. But if you remove the mandatory aspect, well, now you have Super Mario Challenge. The challenges aren't mandatory and the level can exist on their own, or they can pose a challenge for people actively looking for one. Since I can't use clear conditions, I opted for, well, the other option, and it's not the best. Comments. I put 2 comments at the beginning of the level saying what the 2 challenges are. Sure, the game can't keep players accountable for these challenges, so they can only be self-imposed, but quite honestly, there's nothing I can do about it, so take it for what it is. Lastly, the finishing touch for this project, packaging. You know Super Worlds? I don't like them. Actually, let me rephrase. I don't like how restrictive it is. See, in Mario Maker 2, you can upload 100 levels to your profile. Of those 100 levels, you can package them in a super world, but only a maximum of 40 levels per super world. Well, that's fine, I could just upload multiple No, you can't. Super worlds are tied to your Maker profile, and you can only have one super world uploaded at a time. There's no way to upload a super massive world and play through all 100 levels on a Maker profile in a marathon style. Now I could go out and buy Morris and Asso subscriptions and recreate about 66 levels split between 2 Maker profiles so anyone can play through the super worlds. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to spend money and stick another 6 months of my life toiling away at these levels just for convenience sake. I have them all on my profile. If a streamer or creator wants to play through the super worlds, just email me or something. As long as you give credit where it's due, I'll try and make sure it's all smooth for you. As for the rest, I'll change the uploaded super world every month or so you can get the full experience over time. Sorry it has to be like this, but blame Nintendo if you don't like it. Was there something else? Oh yeah! I also made a video showcasing all the levels. So I hope you enjoy it. Roll it! Yeah, there's no rambly bit. Link's Awakening coming up. New Super Mario Bros. 2 also coming up. Roll end screen.